Welcome to the MTBC Telling Our Stories podcast. I am your host, the Associate Pastor here at Mount Tabor Baptist Church, Daniel Nally. And this podcast is us here at MTBC at Mount Tabor sharing our stories. I hope you enjoy your time as you listen to the testimonies and the stories of people of our church. And I hope you share these stories with friends, people that are hurting, people that need encouragement. So let's give a listen to our story for the day. Welcome back to another MTBC Telling Our Stories. Today we have Michelle Sutherland sitting with us today. Michelle, I want to say thank you for spending time, sharing your story, sharing what Jesus has done. Really, before we dive in, though, to what Jesus has done, I want the people to kind of get an idea of who you are. So if you'd like to share hobbies or family or just things like that so the people get a picture of who you are.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm just honored to tell my story about Jesus. I'm the oldest daughter of Preston and Jean Gentry. And I have a brother named Rodney, and he lives in California, and he's 18 months younger than me. I have a husband, Paul, and we had two children. Gentry Lee is our oldest, and Ty is our youngest. And they have brought us great joy. We have 5 grandchildren. I just kept 4. So they just bring me so much joy.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of my biggest blessings in life.
Yeah. That's what I hear a lot is like you don't know what love is until you have a child, and you don't know what spoiling love is until you have grandkids.
That's true. You can enjoy them. I mean, I enjoyed my kids, but it's so nice to just be a Mimi. It's just great.
Yeah. You have any hobbies?
Yes, I do. Music, of course, is probably my biggest hobby. It has always been. I love to read. I love to walk. I love to spend time in nature. I love the beach. I love the mountains. I really like sunlight. So I get a little down on rainy days sometimes. So I need to be outside as much as possible.
Yeah. Michelle says, obviously, music. She's actually the pianist here at the church and helps lead worship on Sunday mornings. And how long have you been doing that here at Mount Tabor?
Goodness. Probably since 2006.
Okay.
So
there you go.
however long that is. Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been a church pianist since I was 12. So,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
It's definitely a love of mine.
Yeah. Awesome. Now that spark from just childhood that your mom or dad just found music was important, or how did that all begin?
Well, as early as I can remember, I love to sing, and of course, I was in church every time the doors were open. I know I've listened to these stories. A lot of people can say that. I'm blessed to be able to say that. So I grew up in a holiness church.
Okay.
and music was a really big deal there.
Yeah.
So not that it isn't here, but it was. I don't know. I just remember singing. The kids were singing all the time. I sang the books of the Bible really young. And I started taking piano lessons when I was 6.
Okay.
And it just kind of clicked. It was easy for me. I'm just thankful. I definitely feel like God gave me a gift there. And I've always wanted to use it for Him. And I enjoy it. And it's not a burden. I'll talk a little bit about that with my testimony. But but it came easy. Sight reading has always kind of come easy for me. So, and I know I have friends that took and they hated it. And they hated practicing. And whereas they would be playing softball or volleyball, I was practicing.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, that was torture. I'm sure they thought, oh, Lord, she's practicing again. But my mom was very integral. Both my parents, but my mom would sit beside me and make sure I practiced. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I was like, can I go outside and
play? As a kid, it was like, do I really have to be here?
Yeah, but I did have to. And I'll tell them a little bit about that in a few minutes.
Yeah, Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you
Mhm.
sharing just who you are. Um, Now, let's go ahead and dive in. Would you mind sharing how you came to know Jesus?
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about it beforehand because my testimony is, well, I guess I've heard other people share analogies, but I kind of think of mine as like a, like a road trip.
Okay.
And and I mean, I don't have any like huge health issues or anything like that. But I feel like everything was smooth sailing, at the beginning of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I did struggle with fear. And I think I shared this with the youth a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really understand that until as an adult and I became a teacher. And but as a young child, 6, 7, 8, I was saved when I was 10. So this is going to lead up to that.
Mm-hmm.
I was fearful. My mom kept me at home and she didn't work. So I didn't go to public kindergarten and she taught me everything there. But when I went to school, I had never been around anyone but my brother and my cousins. So I was very shy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and looking back, I was probably fearful. Really, change freaked me out,
Yeah.
and I couldn't really verbalize that. Didn't do well in first grade, second grade, third grade. I mean, like I did well academically, but I
Yeah.
did not enjoy school.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my teacher, but I was kind of introverted, really shy. So fast forward till and also my church was little. I had one friend, really, that was my age,
Okay.
and so I didn't I didn't have a lot of friends. I wasn't a socialite. I was kind of introverted.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not extroverted. Um, like my daughter is and I we're very different.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes she amazes me because she can just talk to anybody. I've never been that way. I
Yeah.
like small groups. But when I was 10, I went to youth camp and I guess the word fear kind of sticks with me. I don't mean to be negative, but I think I kind of, God used that to draw me.
Okay.
I remember sitting I was at youth camp away from my parents,
Yeah.
which
That
that's a big
that
deal.
that's a big
It's
big
a
deal.
really
Was
big
it your
deal.
first one?
I think so.
Oh
If I
yeah.
remember, I was 10, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I'd never left my mom
Yeah.
for a youth camp. So I did go to a few years to youth camp, but that had to be my first one. Anyway, they did this play, and it was The Rapture,
Mm.
and I've never felt so strong that I knew the Bible, but I knew I'd never had an experience where I
Mm.
accepted Christ. But during that play, I mean, I felt this heaviness, like I had to do something because I knew I wasn't ready. That if
Mm.
he came back, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
So afterwards, I went to the altar and I accepted Christ. And today, I mean, I still remember. I remember going outside and looking at the sky and just feeling such a weight
Mm.
had been lifted.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't fearful. I think I was just free.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way I explained it when I came home. I was so excited to tell people. I was reading my Bible all the time. So it was so strong. And as I grew a little older, I mean, I went through adolescence. Some of that excitement kind of phased out a
Mm-hmm.
little, I would say, but I was always in church. I was always fed by youth leaders and my parents. And so smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm.
Then adolescent hit, and
Oh
I got a
yeah.
little bit more extroverted. So
Mm-hmm.
I started talking more. I started having friends. I never did anything crazy. I was still always very respectful to my parents. I mean, I'm thankful that I can say that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't one of those like, let's stretch the rules or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I pretty much, was always, I would do something I'd tell on myself just because I would feel bad.
Yeah.
And I had that conscience. But anyway, everything was smooth sailing, really. But I want to get back to the fear and the nervousness. I did have, around high school, I switched piano teachers and I switched to the big deal. She was a performer.
Oh
And
wow.
so she recognized, or she said she recognized talent or whatever. And she kind of said I was her child prodigy, which now I think back, that was a lot of pressure to put on a child.
Mm.
But I was 10, 11, 12, and I was competing every summer in all these contests. And you can probably know where this is going. It affected me physically.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put this pressure on me. And I think I was, I have tendencies to be perfectionist kind of, and like I put pressure on myself. My mom didn't put, I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
She did not put pressure on me.
Yeah.
She made sure I practiced, but I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to be like, I don't know. I know no one's perfect, but I mean, I would put a lot of pressure on myself. And
Yeah.
I prayed about that. And when I, just to fast forward, I was in all these contests my senior year. Had to do a big recital, memorize. You wouldn't believe this, all this Bach, Beethoven, Debussy, all this. It was real serious classical stuff.
Yeah.
And and I won this contest, and I had to play in front of the group that paid me the scholarship money.
Mm-hmm.
And I just will never forget standing up there and just going completely blank. My mother had pneumonia, or she was sick at home, and she wasn't there. And my mother was my emotional support, really.
Yeah.
And I just will never forget that feeling. And to this day, Daniel, I do not play without my music because the
Mm.
memory scared me.
Yeah.
The Lord, though, I would have my stomach hurt a lot, and I feel like that's one time that I have that that was a big deal. My church family prayed over me, and it
Mm.
did get some better. Um, but I did go on and major in piano
Mm.
at Converse College, and that got that's when I knew that I I wasn't sure what the Lord wanted me to do at that point. I always felt that He wanted me to use my music, but I didn't love it then, and
Mm-hmm.
I think now I didn't love classical.
Yeah.
Had I gone to another school, a Christian school where I could do Christian music,
Mm-hmm.
but I changed majors, and that's where I hit a crossroad. I did not know what in the world I was supposed to do with my life.
Yeah.
I was dating Paul. Paul and I met. I knew I wanted to marry him, but I didn't have a clue what to do. And I prayed about it, and I just majored in English and psychology. Don't even ask me why. I love to read.
Yeah. That's a diversion in psychology
Yeah,
and English.
I minored in piano. I still played, um, but I still didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I prayed and prayed, and Paul was a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and I always said I didn't want to be a teacher. I don't even know why. I
Uh-huh.
just thought I didn't.
Yeah.
But the Lord put a love. I mean, I've always had a love for kids, but I don't know. I just had this feeling. I was a senior, and I still am like, what am I going to do? My psychology professor goes, you're good. You need to go get your PhD and be a psychologist. He called me in his office, and I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, I want to get married. He goes, okay. So that didn't really pan out. I ended up getting my MAT in teaching.
Okay.
So, and God just opened up doors right, right and left there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when Paul and I married, we didn't know where we would go to church. And I was holiness,
Mm-hmm.
he was Baptist.
Okay.
I had been saved and baptized,
Mm-hmm.
but I was baptized in a swimming pool. My church didn't have a baptismal pool, but we believed, we believed the same.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that was a little different was um, eternal salvation. Sometimes I felt like I was having, I kept hearing the Holy Spirit was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Their teaching versus Baptist, just a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was similar, but there was just a few things that I felt like I heard the word backsliding a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
I, once again, was fearful I wasn't being
Yeah.
good enough.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we prayed about it, and we just said, we were right before we got married. We stood in my living room, and we prayed, and we said, let's just let the Lord lead us. That very next day, someone came up to me and said, Michelle, we're needing a pianist at our church. Would you be interested? I'm like, really? What church? And it was Cedar Springs Baptist. So right before we got married, we visited,
Mm-hmm.
and God just opened that door.
Mm.
So, do you want me to just keep going?
No, I mean it's an
So,
incredible journey. I mean, I think
yeah,
what I hear is, like you said, fear is something that
it's
it
kind of
seems like
intertwined.
intertwined with that. But even then, the Lord showed up to calm the fears, to answer the
Mm-hmm.
fears, whatever word or phrase you want to use. Um, but I do have to say though, Michelle, you still stepped out. Even though you were afraid, it seems like you would still step out and trust the Lord in that, which is a
Mm-hmm.
big thing because I think fear is crippling for a lot of people. I think whoever will listen to this is probably saying, "Yeah, that's me. I can't
Mm-hmm.
do A, B, or C because I'm afraid." And there's encouragement to hear from your story of I was afraid, but I still was able to step out and look
Mm-hmm.
what God's done. I mean, especially at that time, college, senior year. I mean, that's a lot of things being thrown at you when you talk about wedding planning,
Mm-hmm.
marriage. What am I doing with my life? I think that's a constant battle of fear of a lot of people deal with.
And it's so real, and it made me a better teacher because I did experience those things,
Mm-hmm.
and I see that now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I had issues with having to go to the bathroom a lot, for example, in first grade, and I had some issue with my bladder. I don't remember, but like I didn't want to go to school because of that, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. And
Yeah.
so when I taught, I never told someone you can't go to the bathroom. I
Yeah.
just remember what that felt like, and
Mm-hmm.
if I don't know, just little things that happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, I just feel like it definitely helped me be more understanding anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but my husband's wonderful. He he was a coach then, so we started our married life. He was coaching two sports,
Mm-hmm.
gone a lot of the time. That
Mm-hmm.
was a huge transition for me because
Mm-hmm.
both my parents worked 8 to 5 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I can remember a funny story is one night I was like wanting to have supper warm when he got home because I love to cook. And I think I made homemade biscuits like 3 times. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what's wrong with these biscuits? They're hard. And it wasn't self rising flour. They were, I kept throwing them out. It was really hard for me because, I'm not going to lie, I was a homebody.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was at home every weekend in college. And we lived in Spartanburg,
Mm-hmm.
and he was at Broome. Well, he started at Carolina High School, which is in Greenville.
Okay.
Ended up at Broome. I ended up in Spartanburg 7 for 3 years, but just having to get used to being alone a lot
Yeah.
without my mom and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
It was a transition.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I'm going to put a plug in for church.
Mm-hmm.
The church family has always been vital to us.
Yeah.
I mean, both of us. God has just blessed us with every church we've attended. We've gotten very involved, and we still have friends from Cedar Spring that we still get together with.
Yeah.
So, great. Um,
Is that church that was in Spartanburg
yep, that's
area?
the one that, yes.
Okay. Awesome.
It's right near the School for Deaf and Blind.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
we actually thought we'd live there. We bought land. We were planning to build.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paul, and I had the most wonderful job. I was a GT teacher, and it was just wonderful. I worked for a great person.
Mm-hmm.
She taught me how to write unit and curriculum, and I was just felt like I was like blessed to be working under her. And then one day, Paul comes home and says, um, "I think I'm interested. Would you be okay if I applied for a West Side?" I'm like, West Side? Well, that's in Anderson.
Yeah, we're in Spartanburg.
What
What you
about our
talking?
church friends? And
Yeah.
what about our land that we just bought? And I love my job. But Gentry Lee, Gentry Lee was one when
Mm-hmm.
that happened, and and that was a crossroad.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't upset. I was glad because I'd be coming closer to our families.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was going to miss my church family. They were part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, we did move, and we weren't here long at all. Paul's mother got sick, and we lost her.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just God just working it out so we could
Yeah.
be there. And she didn't feel well. We knew she didn't feel well, but we had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
She was that sick. We took her to the hospital, and she died within like 5 days.
Wow.
And it was just terrible, fast cancer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my mother died a few years later, and she was 58 when she died.
Mm-hmm.
So she was 56 when she was diagnosed with kidney cancer.
Yeah.
And I think that's I feel like really my life was smooth sailing until, I mean, it was very hard losing Carolyn, Paul's mom. but like I had 4 grandparents at my wedding. My grandparents had passed. It was really hard,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. It's a gut punch when it's your parent.
Yeah.
And I will never forget when I got the news. I was Ty, of course. My kids were very active in things, and he was at T-ball. I can remember getting the news and that she had cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and I just collapsed on my bed and cried
Yeah.
because her mother had kidney cancer and didn't make it. So um, that's that is the first time I needed the Lord in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
and He was there,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful I was there because it did kind of go fast, and toward the end, I was able to, fix her meals and take them to her and
Mm-hmm.
be with her.
Yeah.
So,
Replay all those hours that she sat beside you on the piano.
yep,
You could sit beside her then.
yep.
Yeah.
And I definitely would not be who I am without her and her impact on my life. So
Yeah.
we had a great relationship. We talked every day. We didn't argue. I mean,
That's a big thing.
yeah, we didn't argue. I mean, I just greatly respected her, and she respected me. It was just, I don't know. I still hear her voice
Mm.
a lot of times
Yeah.
in my head. So,
Yeah.
of course, I sound just like her on the phone, so it's really
There
weird.
you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's a.
But she passed away, and my dad married a great woman, so I have to give her kudos because I mean, about a year later, he met Elaine at church,
Mm.
and she's been with us now 25 years, I think.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
So we've been super blessed.
Yeah. That's awesome. I do want to point out something that you said that, you face this challenge of change of why are we moving to Anderson?
Hmm.
We're in Spartanburg. We have this, this, and this.
Everything going our way.
Everything is
It
going
seemed
our
like.
way.
Hmm.
Why would we do that? But uh, I don't know. I think people would miss it if they did. We're listening very well. But you said, I know that God was interweaving us to be here for Paul's
Hmm.
mom, for your mom, for all these things. And so
Hmm.
I think we need to remind ourselves of those things that hindsight is 2020,
Hmm.
yes, but even in the midst of God taking us out of our comfortable places, he's doing something.
Definitely.
It's just the
I
question
see
is,
it
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Hmm.
that it is. Do we see
Hmm.
it? And so I want to say just that your story is an encouragement for people to be able to see.
When things don't make sense.
Yeah, when
Hmm.
things don't make sense. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, these are challenging times. Are there other moments in your life that that the Lord was with you, that Jesus was walking you through, or he was in the boat, in a way to put it?
Yep. Right after, well, we had 2 miscarriages.
Mm.
After Gentry's perfect pregnancy, easy. I mean, of course, me, I had a plan for my
Hmm.
life, and God just laughed at that.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted 3 kids, one, 2 years apart, another. That was just my plan.
Hmm.
So had her. 2 years later, I get pregnant, and I was home. Thank goodness. Then that's another reason I think I need to be home.
Hmm.
I lost that one, and I went to the doctor. Felt fine. They didn't hear a heartbeat,
Yeah.
and it's crushing.
Yeah.
Um, but I was okay. But then it happened again,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't okay.
Hmm.
And that's the first time in my life I did suffer some postpartum depression with Gentry Lee a little bit. Nothing really terrible, but enough to where I had to go to see Mama for a little while.
Hmm. Oh
So
yeah.
I felt better after that. But this time it was dark for a little while,
Yeah.
and this is weird, but Paul, I just remember this. He was trying everything. He goes, "Do you want to get a new chair?"
A new
For the den,
chair.
because
Oh.
I needed a chair in the den. It was just funny. And he said, "You want to go look for some furniture?" Like we weren't rolling in the dough then.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of money.
Hmm.
But so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something just snapped, and I started laughing. I'm like, "Yeah, let's get a chair." And I felt. I just wasn't sure. I thought something was wrong with me. I went through to the doctor, and they're like, "No, you're fine." And then shortly, not long, we conceived with Ty. And you talk about scared for
Hmm.
9 months.
Yeah.
It was It
fear.
was scary.
Yeah.
You understand. Um, I was terrified the whole 9 months,
Yeah.
and I call him my miracle baby because I've really feel like he was a miracle baby,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know. I feel like the Lord had His hand on that, and I just want to tell you that one of the youth one of the girls that I taught piano to at Cedar Spring wrote me a letter and told me um, this was before before I conceived with him. She said, "I know you're sad, but my mom had two miscarriages too, and if she had had them, I wouldn't be here."
Mm-hmm.
I just will never forget that letter, and it wasn't long after, and that child
Mm-hmm.
really impacted my life.
Yeah.
And I told her later, I'm like, you just don't know what that letter meant to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big time. And of course, 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, raising teenagers is not for the faint of heart. I'm not lying. Was probably not very good at it. I tried. I probably put too many rules. I probably didn't let God do what He needed to do because I was scared
Mm-hmm.
again that something would happen to them. Driving a car scared me.
Yeah.
Going out with friends scared me. So I don't know, Paul and I were probably very strict, maybe more strict than maybe we needed to be sometimes. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But who knows? We may have saved their lives.
Yeah.
But we prayed during those times, but those years are rough. I mean, and I loved them and I hated them at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. So there were times when you know, I prayed, I cried, but the Lord saw us through those years, and everything was great. They got saved. Both of my children got
Yeah.
saved, and they're Christians. I'm very thrilled about that. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
2017,
Mm-hmm.
um, the highest of highs. First grandbaby born.
Mm-hmm.
A few days later, Paul has a heart attack
Yeah.
and passes away on the field
Mm-hmm.
under me. I
Mm-hmm.
was literally on him, on top of him, and I kind of felt him just, and I've never felt anything like that before.
Yeah.
Um, I I can't even tell you that I remember that. This is the only thing I remember is just saying Jesus over and over again. I couldn't even talk.
Yeah.
I've never been in shock, and I do remember jumping up and seeing somebody do something. At first before I realized what was really happening,
Mm-hmm.
everybody was just going. Even the doctor that was there was just staring. It's like everybody didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And David Elgin was there. I just remember he was. I think he was I don't know, fireman. Anyway, he was there and he ran and got an AED,
Mm-hmm.
and all this happened very fast.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't breathing,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know for how long.
Yeah.
And people made me move, um, and I just remember thinking, I don't know why I thought this. We had talked to a financial advisor just a couple of weeks later, and they earlier, and asked if we knew what we wanted to do. We don't know when we may just fall over. Well,
Mm-hmm.
like I could almost hear him saying that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm a widow. I'm too young to be a widow.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I just remember just saying Jesus, Jesus, and I looked up in the stands because the band people were waiting to do a show,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw a guy that I worked with youth at Parkwood when we were there,
Mm-hmm.
and we made eye contact, and I just said, please pray, and he started praying. Everybody was praying.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying Jesus, and I couldn't see Paul. They wouldn't let me see him.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was not pretty.
Yeah.
It was scary. Um, but they got him breathing again after two shocks, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Michelle. And he said, Michelle. And he said, Millie. It was so weird.
Oh.
It's like he had just seen her
Mm-hmm.
prior to having a heart attack, prior to the game. And that whole night, I was in shock. I couldn't follow directions. And God, when I went home that night after he was stented and he was, I thought,
So
stable,
yeah.
um, it was like I felt a peace. I felt like things were going to be okay. I didn't know it was not stable. That his heart was erratic.
Yeah.
Um, but I have that evening, that night at home, I felt a peace that I can't explain.
Mm.
So I knew I had to be strong for him. And I feel like God gave me that strength that I needed to have when my mom was sick and when Paul was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I did things I really never thought I would do, like with him when he came home. And I know I couldn't have, because I'm not strong and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, like I said, fearful and scared. But I remember my dad said, "Are you sure you want him to come home right now with that life vest?" Like we could have kept him in the hospital a day or two longer,
Yeah.
but he was wanting to come home, and I'm
Yeah.
like, we're gonna be okay."
Mm-hmm.
Now the life vest did go off at like 11:30 the first night, and I don't know if you know what that is, but if it were to, like, if I didn't get it off of him,
Uh-huh.
it would shock him. Like it was, so I didn't know if his heart was doing something funky
Yeah.
or if it was a mess up on the life vest.
Yeah.
So Paul's like, "Get this off me."
Oh my gosh.
So it was like 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a scary time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It was very scary for him as well.
Yeah.
So that's his testimony.
Yeah.
But the Lord was with me as well as I was watching him.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing we talk
So
about. Husband, you're just not sure and
mm-hmm,
having to go
no.
home from the hospital and all that. But I mean, praise the Lord. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I literally sat in Paul's office at Liberty yesterday, and
Yeah.
he's healthy and coaching and enjoying time with the grandkids too and
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah. He's very healthy and he's had good checkups ever since.
it's good.
So hopefully whatever they did, they fixed that issue,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
So, um, yeah, that was a big thing. I'm trying to think. Um, we both retired
Hmm.
from this district, and I just want to say a plug. I know everybody. Education is still good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know it's scary, and the schools are scary, and there are a lot of scary things happening, but the Lord is still there,
Hmm.
and I work with student teachers now. I did retire, but I work at Andrews University, and um, I have to say the students that I've worked with have been wonderful,
Yeah.
and they're Christian,
Hmm.
and we can pray together. We do pray together. We share prayer requests.
Yeah.
So you can have faith that
Hmm.
things are still great.
Lord always works, even when we
Yep.
don't. Well, even when we think in darkness,
Hmm.
there's still hope.
I know we see a lot on the news, and
Yeah.
but I have some great students this semester, and I
Yeah.
feel very honored to
Hmm.
work with them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, through all of these experiences you've had with life and challenges and fear, has there been any scripture that God's opened up and brought to you to deal with or to work through these things?
Absolutely. Yep. Well, I guess my whole growing up, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And I think my mom probably said that to me a lot when I've always felt that verse. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that it doesn't mean that you can do everything you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the whole point of that for me is strengthens me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this is the verse that's literally in my nursery at my house. I call it my nursery. It's where the baby bed is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I found it and I had to have it. And it's Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
And when Berkeley and Millie were babies, I had their changing table right under that.
Mm-hmm.
And we would say that every time we changed diapers. And when they were little, they probably don't remember that now, but we would do that every time that we
Yeah.
changed their diaper.
Oh.
But that's just a very big verse for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was glad to find that and put it in my house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's a very, very strong, encouraging verse of it's the Lord who provides the strength.
yeah.
We do not have to be afraid. He provides
Hmm.
all that we need, especially in context of Joshua,
Oh, I
right?
know it.
I
Hmm.
mean, he's taking over after Moses. Talk about
Yes.
being afraid. It's like I gotta step in
Right.
these guys'
Hmm.
shoes and lead this nation. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's a great verse.
And that is said. I'm doing the Bible recap, which by the
Hmm.
way, I put a plug in for that.
Oh yeah.
Second time I've done it, but that is throughout the Bible,
Hmm.
throughout the Old Testament,
Hmm.
and I didn't realize that, and I've noticed that doing this, that it's not just in Joshua,
Yeah.
it's throughout the Old Testament.
Yeah. Yeah. And gives encouragement that
Yeah. Hmm.
people of the Bible, people that we hold in high regard, they were
Hmm.
afraid too.
Right.
It's a natural thing for us to be afraid in situations we don't
Mm-hmm.
understand or circumstances, but always a good reminder of who
Yeah.
God is compared to that. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Michelle, for someone that's sitting here listening to your story or watching your story, either one, what is one thing you want them to know about your relationship with Jesus right now?
Um, Prayer changes everything.
Mm,
And I haven't said much about prayer, but I feel um, that is how I get through the times when I feel like I'm not enough. And I do, and I mentioned that I had a song.
mm,
The truth, I love songs. So, I
mm-hmm,
mean, my favorite song changes like every other week
mm-hmm,
probably. But right now, the song, the truth,
mm-hmm,
by I think Wood is the Natalie. I'm not sure.
mm-hmm,
I can't think of her name, but anyway, and it's called "And That's the Truth."
mm-hmm,
And some of the words, that's something I wanted to end with actually. Um, the truth is, I am my Father's child. I make him proud and I make him smile. I was made in the image of a perfect king. He looks at me and wouldn't change a thing. The truth is, I am truly loved by a God who's good when I'm not good enough. I don't belong to the lies, I belong to you, and that's the truth.
mm,
So I think that's the one thing that you are good enough.
mm-hmm.
Um, and and if you are the Father's child, you can't work your way to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer, faith, and just having faith that you are His child,
Mm-hmm.
um, and rest in that. Because for somebody that really always never thought, I just always thought I need to do something better,
Mm-hmm.
and that puts a lot of pressure. And that's just Satan
Yeah. Oh,
making
yeah.
you think that you're just not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
and that's true. I mean, I'm glad to be able to do this because honestly, I don't. I share my faith. I used to share my faith with my students a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't walk up to other adults and just openly just start talking
Mm-hmm.
because I don't feel like it's good enough,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just Satan's lies.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you are good enough. You're exactly who God made you,
Mm.
and imperfections or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have something you can share. So that's the one thing I would like to say. That I've had to learn that, and I'm still learning that at my age today.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thankful to you that you've given us this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
always the hope is that our stories or whoever sits in this chair and your story today, Michelle, would point someone to Jesus, would encourage them that don't believe Satan's lies, that
Mm-hmm.
you have a God that loves you, that cares for you, wants a relationship with you. And so I want to say thank you for sitting down with me today and sharing your heart and sharing your story. And I look forward to see how the Lord will use your story.
Thank you.